welcome everybody to the member update. As always, we're glad to see everybody. I think we have a good agenda today. We're going to talk about our strategic plan later, and then some new services that are being developed. So remember that you can ask questions in the Zoom chat box. We may not get to all of them right away, but we'll get to all of them eventually, promise. So we'll be monitoring the chat, so we'll do our best. So I guess we'll just launch right in. And remember too, if you do ask a question, to be sure that you use the panelists and attendees option, or even I guess the everyone option, so you know everybody will see what everybody else is saying. Okay, so starting in with the general Rails news, we do have a vacancy on our board. The school library seat is vacant. We have been asking for volunteers to self-nominate, and we've got a few really good candidates, and that closes today actually. And the process that we use is that the Rails Executive Committee of the board meets and recommends a candidate to the full board. So they're meeting tomorrow, and I don't know if they will have just seen the candidate's application information, so I'm not sure that they will be deciding, really soon. But I'm hoping that we'll have somebody for the October meeting. I also wanted to update you on the public, the ILA public policy priorities. Rails has been very actively advocating for some legislation, including statewide database funding for all libraries, all system member libraries, and that was a top choice of the Public Policy Committee. And also that what was very important to the Public Policy Committee and to the Executive Board were a broadband access, an ebook, law, I don't know, like a law or a statement that libraries should not have to pay excessive charges for ebooks, and a levy general fund proposal that just sort of like smooths out some of the existing legislation. The Public Policy Committee is meeting next week, and the Executive Board did support the databases also, but they did not support what Rails has been advocating in terms of and kind of in addition to the Cards for Kids Act that's in place already, that would be a not a mandate, but would allow local boards of trustees to issue, to waive the fee for non-resident cards for all minors, not just minors who are enrolled in the school lunch program. So we'll see what will happen. Rails will continue its advocacy efforts in any case, as always. We'll be at the ILA conference in October, as I hope a lot of you will be. We will be having our virtual exhibit booth, so please stop by. We'll have lots of demos there available for you. We have staff and board presenting programs on a variety of topics, and we will be very thrilled to receive the Hugh Atkinson Award, which was we were nominated by a member. This award honors resource sharing, and we're really pleased that ILA has awarded this to us. We will also be at the ISLE conference in person. That's in Champaign. And then one other that thing I did want to share with you about we've had some questions over the past few months Oh, thank you, Kate. She says congratulations. We've had some questions over the past few months about members being able to attend meetings here in Rails, and because of the uptick in the COVID transmission this fall, we currently do not have any scheduled plans for in-person member meetings. We have staff that are conducting one-on-one trainings, and we are traveling to attend some meetings, for example, the IO conference, but we really need to see some better numbers before we make any changes to that policy. We're continuing to do lots of virtual events and training and meetings, etc. So we'll continue to do that, and hopefully over the winter things will subside again, and maybe subside for good. So that's the general news that I wanted to let you know. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said so far? Okay, then. I think I will, without further ado, turn it over to Monica Harris, who's going to introduce Stephanie Chase and our strategic planning process.
Thank you, Deirdre. And so I know we've got Stephanie here on the line. I just wanted to have the opportunity to thank all of you for being part of this discussion today. The strategic plan is a big undertaking, of course, for Rails. And for Rails, it's very, very important to hear from our members and hear what you all are interested in. So this is a great step and opportunity to hear from you all in terms of some of your beginning pieces in there. Stephanie, hi, Stephanie. We just want to introduce Stephanie to you all. Stephanie is our consultant working on strategic planning from her firm Constructive Disruption. Stephanie has more than 20 years of experience in local and municipal government, including as a director and executive level leader in public libraries. But Stephanie's also served communities ranging from small and rural resort communities, some of our largest urban centers on both the East and West Coasts. In addition to her experience as a public library director, Stephanie currently serves on the Public Library Association's Board of Directors and the American Library Association's Governing Council. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to do our strategic planning experience for today. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Monica. Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction too. It's really lovely to see everybody. So thank you everyone for coming out this morning. We're going to do a little taste test of the strategic planning process today. So my hope is to give you a little bit of information about what we'll be doing, ways that you can participate, and give you some background information. As Monica mentioned, your involvement, your participation, and your contributions are really important. And that means we really need to have a sense of kind of what we're talking about, have some shared vocabulary. So we're going to do that today. There's going to be some engagement for you, so some in the moment polling. So if you have your phone at hand, I would have that with you, because you can use your phone or you can use your computer. We'll talk about those instructions in when we get there. So let me bring up my screen and we'll go through, I have to open the right one, and we'll go through our thing for today. Okay. So again, as Monica mentioned, we're here really to talk about the start of Rails strategic planning process. This is a process that is really focused on getting your input as members about what will be the most valuable for you to see Rails working on going ahead into the future. And now Monica already gave a nice introduction to me. One of the things that I'd like to add is I'm actually in rural Eastern Oregon right now. The other hat that I wear is as the executive director of the Libraries of Eastern Oregon, which is a 50-member resource sharing consortium that covers just over half the state of Vermont, made up all of small and rural libraries. So I'm really excited. I love doing strategic planning processes. And one of the things that I really love is bringing people together to really share about resources. And as I mentioned, we'll be using Poll Everywhere to do some in the moment polling. So to participate, as I mentioned, there are two ways. If you have another device, so if you have your phone or you have a tablet at hand, that's great. or you can use the web. Now, when we go to presentation mode on Zoom, that tends to put it full screen. So if you just press escape, you can shrink Zoom down a little bit, and then you'll be able to navigate back to your web browser. And if you type in pollev.com/constructive785, it will hook you into today's poll questions. Where you could also do this, of course, using the browser that you have on your phone or on your tablet, whatever you have at hand. And a little note about the web, it asks for your name. I cannot see it, so just press skip. I'm not sure why it's there. Thanks, Poll Everywhere. Now, if you'd rather, you can also text. And so for that, you just open up whatever app you use to text. And in the to field where you put your phone, the phone number or the contact name, the person's name, you're going to type 22333. And then in the body, where you would typically type the message that you're sending, you're going to type constructive 785, all as one word, and press send. That will hook you also into the poll. And then from there, each text message that you send back will show up as an answer to the poll. So these instructions are at the top of each poll, and you can put in the chat if you're having trouble. Sometimes the gap is leaving a space between constructive and 785 in the texting. That's the top foiler. So make sure it's all one word. So I'm going to we have some test questions just to make sure that it's working well for everybody. So everyone will have a chance to kind of make sure that it's working. So let's start with an easy one. It's morning. So tell me what your favorite breakfast is in one word. I love it. Coffee, always number one. And so a little trick here, if I ask for a poll result, asking for just one word, if you have a 2-word answer, you can keep them connected together. You can see that just popped up with Egg McMuffin. Use that hyphen and it will help keep your words together. And I can see some of you poached eggs and cheese curds have put them all as one word. I love seeing the variety of what people have for a favorite breakfast. And so if you're having trouble, again, there are 2 ways you can participate in the poll. So if you are on your computer at work, this is much more difficult, I think, if you're on your phone to try to do it in both places. If you're on your computer at work, just shrink Zoom, so press escape, and you could go to your web browser, so whatever you use for the internet, open a new tab or a new window, and you could type in pollev.com/constructive785. So that address right at the top. And it will let you know that you're connecting as part of this poll. It will put the question up for you and a space for you to type your answer. Now, again, if you'd rather, you can text. So if you have your phone handy, you just open up your texting app and you type 22333 in where you would typically type someone's name or a phone number, and then constructive 785 as your message, as your first message. You'll get a text message back that says that you're part of the poll as well. So there are a couple more. I have a couple more just to give us a chance to kind of get going this morning. We have an amazing variety here. I love seeing all of these. We have such a wide variety. It's really great. All right, so in just a minute, I'm going to move on to the next question. Thank you, Mary, for putting that URL in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there have
Always
been,
easier to
there's a
click.
couple people having some problems. So thank you, Mary. Yep.
And then
Okay.
again, if you're texting and you're having a problem, it's often because you have put a space in between the 2 words, or your autocorrect may have autocorrect constructive.
Page not found.
So I might try closing out of your browser and opening a new window, or opening an incognito window if you're in Chrome. Yeah, so a little bit. Thanks everybody for holding. Hey, I had to enter it twice to get in.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next question, but again, we have time. We're not going to get started. It's, with what we're really tracking. We're just doing some practice to make sure that, again, people have no problem getting in. So this is a little bit different. So I just wanted to give you a different sense of the poll. Here, just share what kind of library you work in. In this case, if you're on using texting, all you have to do is text the letter of the answer that you want to send. I wondered what Norgie was as well.
Oh.
Or Norwegian pancakes, delicious. So we have a lot of public library staff here with us today, some schools, some academic, some other, and some Rails staff. And then in one word, so this is very similar to the breakfast one, share with me what your role is at your library. And what's great about these is if you see a word that pops up that describes you, you can go ahead and just type the same word in. That, as you see, what just happened with director, makes director bigger. So this is great when we're doing these polls where we're asking for this. We're kind of getting a sense of where the group is today. If you see a word that really resonates with you, an answer that someone else has put in that resonates with you, go ahead and type that same answer in. So you can see we have a wide variety, though, of staff here with us today doing a lot of different things.
It's very interesting to see the diversity of who's here. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We've always wondered, but this is really, thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. I think it's wonderful too, also to remember just how many different roles there are in libraries. We all do such different things. So I'll give everybody just a minute to finish putting that in. It does look like somebody put Swiss Army knife in, doesn't it? So again, remember keeping those, what a great, right? If we had seen that pop up, I think lots of people would have copied that. If you want to do a multiple word answer in these word clouds, if you use that hyphen, it keeps all of your words together. I can see some people used a slash here too. Okay.
So the slash works too. Okay.
Yep. Just don't put a space in. That'll be the end of you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Again, I think it's so fun to just see who's here with us in these meetings today. So now I just want to talk a little bit about the details. So I want to share a little bit about the planning process. So we're really starting this planning process by building on the current strategic goals that you have. So really taking what's been successful for Rails, not just over the past few years, but really since inception, really looking at how we can build on that and bring it forward. So what does it mean to do these things, not just in 2021, but in 2022, 2024, 2025, as we look forward? It doesn't mean that we're going to keep the exact same strategic goals, but that they're where we really start to explore and where we have to really think about what needs to continue to be part of our work. Importantly, we also really want to see what gaps have really come to mind, really been realized for us as an opportunity really to innovate and to explore. And we're going to look at those in more depth at our member town halls. We'll give you a little bit of information about that before the end. Now, when I build a strategic planning process, I was very thoughtful of capturing input in a wide variety of ways and with as wide a variety of audience as I can. So I want to get as many people involved as possible. And it's really critical to me when building these processes to make clear how those contributions shaped the finished plan. And so when I work with an organization, like Rails, that becomes an important part of the process too. So I think what's really great to know as a member is that your Rails leadership has really also said your input, your contributions are important to us, and we want to be able to make sure that you are seen in the plan. So I build my processes in part using the core values of the International Association of Public Participation, or the IAP2, which you may or may not have heard of. And that commitment really is central. And so for you as members and Rails staff, you'll really play an important part in shaping the objectives and how we'll be measuring the success of those activities that we do. So those expectations that you have for not just yourself, but for Rails. And so when we translate those core values, it means member and staff participation in the process is prioritized. It means that your contributions to the process will help shape the final product. So I do my best. One of my roles as facilitating the process is to keep that thread really clear as possible for you all. That Rails is really committed to offering multiple modes of participation, and it will really be there to help make sure that you can participate. And then, as I mentioned, part of what happens is that in the end, we'll also be able to share how your input shaped the final product. So again, carrying that commitment all the way through our work. And when we look at the work that we are doing, we really want to develop a plan where strategies are supported by measurable objectives. So we're really looking at creating a plan that is very practical, that helps us focus, that gives you a clear sense of what Rails is working on, and make sure that Rails has a clear sense of what your priorities are. So we want to make sure that Rails staff, so the staff of Rails, can see their work and their opportunities to contribute to the plan. So that real internal focus, but that you as member libraries can also really see where that work is going to benefit you. Of course, we want to make sure that we're incorporating some lessons learned during the pandemic, and we'll touch on that by the end of this today. And that first and foremost, we're really focusing on member library need. So we're really looking at what you as member libraries really need from Rails to be as successful as possible. And then what that all looks like is that we, again, want to have multiple ways for members to give input. So we have a stakeholder team to co-lead the process, and that's made up of staff, of member library representatives, and of board members. So I think if we have any of our strategic planning committee members here today, thank you for coming, and you can say hi in the chat. And then they'll be really a key part in helping kind of bring all of these contributions together to help create a finished plan. We're going to offer several rounds of direct engagement. So offered in a virtual town hall style. We'll have a little touch of that today, really focusing on building the objectives and the measurements of success. So there are 2 rounds, one where we really focus on making sure, again, we are all on the same page about what we're doing, starting to get your top level sense, what's most important to you about what Rails does. And then the second round where we really focus on what your expectations are for that work. So what does it really look like? I can see Juanita's here and Tom's here. Thank you. And we're going to have some small focus group discussions and one-on-one interviews, and that'll be led by my partner in this process, Cindy Fessmeyer. So some of you will have been at meetings with Cindy. She's also done some work with the board. So as I mentioned, we have a strategic plan steering committee. This is one of the ways that we're really ensuring that staff voices, member library staff voices, perspective, and contributions are at the forefront to the process. So that committee just met for the first time, and it features board members, staff, and member library representatives. And so, as you know, we've had a couple say hi in the chat. They're really here as resources for you too. And what I want to remind everybody is that this kind of member-led process, it really requires us to be open, to be kind, and to be generous with our colleagues. So I want you to remember that they've really volunteered to play this critical role in ensuring you as their coworkers and as their colleagues are represented in the plan and know about what's happening in the planning process. So as I mentioned, this committee is a really important part of bringing those member contributions to the final plan and really making sure that we test that plan, against their expertise and their networks. So we want a plan that everyone feels comfortable using as a tool to focus their work and or to shape conversations with members, and a plan that also can be an example for you as member libraries. And so then I just want to touch on what our timeline is. So back in August, we got started. In August and then this month in September, we've held sessions with the board and with the staff, and we put together that steering committee, and they had their first meeting to begin their work. And then next week, so starting on Monday, we start our rounds of virtual engagement sessions. As I mentioned, there are 2. And so that starts on Monday, and we'll show those dates to you. And I know that you can sign up for them online as well, and those have been shared with you. We'll also do a specific board engagement session, and we'll continue to have those focus groups and those one-on-one conversations. We're also having town halls that are dedicated just to Rails staff. In December and January, we're going to get the steering committee together for a brainstorming session, and we're going to really work to narrow down the objectives and to start to craft that plan language. And our goal is by the end of January 2022 to present a draft of the plan to the board. And of course, this may be, might move out a little bit. We know we have the holidays in there. And I also know that it might feel like this is moving really quickly. Sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, a timeline that fits on 2 slides feels like it's too fast. But what I just want everybody to take a step back and remember is that this part itself is 5 months, which is pretty significant. And again, it's also built on the experiences, the contributions, the comments, the feedback, the awareness, all of the things that you have really been contributing over the past several years. So I think it's important to remember it's kind of part of a continuum. So just as to get a sense, I'd be really curious for you. So as someone who's here today, are you familiar with Rails' current strategic plan? So has this been part of anything that you have been doing? So I think for most of us, we might know that it's there. How familiar we are with it varies, but for many of us, we haven't looked at it. And so on one hand, that's fine, right? Because it probably means Rails feels like it's doing pretty much what you want it to do. On the other hand, it means we have this great opportunity, again, to think about one of the objectives I was given is to really have this plan be something that could be usable for you as well. So to provide inspiration or guidance for your own work in your own member libraries. So it'll be great to check back and see if we managed to do that. And then Monica, thank you for putting the link up there as well if you wanted to check Rails' current strategic plan. It's a great way, again, to see what Rails has said that they're going to be focusing on. So I want to touch very briefly on how the plan will be structured. We're going to go into this in more detail in those member town halls, but I want to just give an overview of generally the elements of a strategic plan. So typically we have 3 parts that tend to be more evergreen. The language around them might change, but typically we are working, these are a really important part of just the makeup of our organization, about how we choose what we choose to do or where our funding comes from. So the kind of biggest, broadest element of a strategic plan is the vision statement. And we really want to think of the vision statement as an ambitious hope we're striving for. Something I really share as part of processes where we're looking at the vision statement, where we're redoing the vision statement, is that this should really be something that you can't accomplish on your own. And I think something that's great about resource sharing, consortiums and cooperatives like Rails is that really nothing they can do can be done on their own without you. But in our communities, we're really looking for something that's beyond the library, right? Or in our schools or academic settings, kind of just beyond the library setting. We need more people with us to help that be a vision that could be achieved. And then kind of the next step down that is really geared towards your organization is the mission statement. And that's why we do what we do. It's our reason for existing. It's the contributions we're making towards having that vision statement become a success. And we are going to look at the vision statement with our strategic planning steering committee. Next are a set of core values, and these can be expressed in different ways, but they're what's really important to us as we do our work. And for us in library work, we rest on a set of strong core values that are really our foundations, privacy, intellectual freedom, free and open access, equitable access. So we are part of a profession that has a pretty strong set of core values. So often these might be values that are really specifically and specially, inherent of the organization who's doing a plan. A lot of these things, they're what we know about them, how we feel them, are part of the culture or the communication of an organization. And then we get to the parts of a plan, the next 4 parts, that are things that are more mutable. They're things that may change drastically from plan to plan. And Rails, the language that they use is that top level is a strategic goal. So that's what we're really focusing on to support our mission. And an important thing to remember about this, and to remember about strategic plans in general, is that they are not supposed to be talking about everything that you do. So everything an organization does doesn't need to show up in a strategic plan. There are foundational, fundamental things that we do as an organization, and we will continue to do them. But a strategic plan is telling us about what we're focusing on. So what we're really putting our energy, our resources, our time, our budgets, what are we really focusing on over the set period of time of the strategic plan? And these days, that typically is around 3 years. And then from that, the next level down, so we're getting more specific, are the objectives. And that's really how we'll work to support the goals. So that's getting, again, a little bit more specific. So a particular, path that we're going to take, a particular area of focus that we're going to do to really make sure that those goals are successful. And for me, it's really important that each of those objectives is really paired with some kind of measurement of success, some kind of way that we're going to tell if we're going in the right direction, if we've done what we've said that we're going to do. It helps keep that focus really sharp. And then the last part, and this is where the specifics are in our annual actions. So and we could do this in many different ways in an organization. An annual action plan, you may do this as part of your budgeting process, but this is what you're going to do this year to move those objectives and those goals forward. And so for those of you who have been in public libraries for a long time, these typically would all be part of one big plan. In the past, that was our best practice, right? And we have these thick plans, that binder would sit on the shelf. But what we're really striving for right now is a plan that fits on one page. It's a plan that is a tool that we can use in our everyday lives. And so we want to make sure that those actions, that those specifics, we're really looking at as close to the moment that we need them as possible. So they're really responsive and so we can remain flexible. And so when we're thinking about what a strategic plan can do, again, we really want to remember that a strategic plan is really an internal tool. So it really puts into writing the strategies that we're going to be using as an organization to continuously improve the product we're putting out. And that's true whether you're talking about private or public sector. What are our strategies to continue to be the best that we're going to be? What are the strategies that we're going to use to continue to improve, grow our market share, right? Increase our revenue, whatever it might be. That is inherent. It's part of every strategic plan. And for us at Rails, that service, right? The product we're looking to make sure that we're always improving is our service to you. So if you think about a strategic plan as putting our organizational promises on paper. So it's a tool for Rails to communicate better with you, to communicate better to member libraries about what we're focusing on and what we're doing for you. Just as it's a tool to help Rails and Rails staff really focus on that work. So the work of connecting with member libraries, taking action to address gaps, understanding who we're not serving well, developing new processes or policies or services, all of that. That's the work we do in service to the plan once it's been completed. So I think it's really important to remember that a strategic plan isn't about implementing, it's about acknowledging what we want to implement. And again, we really want to try to get to a strategic plan that fits on one page. Sometimes we can call it front or back, but we want it to be a tool that can really be used in everyday lives. So now I want to focus on getting some thoughts from you. So thinking about all that we've just really talked about where does Rails really need to focus? What is Rails doing that is most meaningful for you? And how can that help shape what we decide to do going forward? We have a few more polls. So let's start with this one. So again, in one word, if you can put a couple words together if you need to. What is the one thing that I can see my spelling mistake, is currently doing that helps you the most. So be really specific. What is the thing that you turn to Rails for every time? I think we know delivery is a really critical part of what we do. And so we can see continuing education, answering pleas for help, that networking. So if you put resource sharing, what specific part of resource sharing? And you could put multiple answers in if you need. Not just delivery, but fast delivery, our webinars, the deals and the discounts, training, the FOIA hotline, being an advocate at the state level, that advocacy piece, so funding, support, the jobs board, our listservs, guidance. So again, that kind of being there to answer questions, provide help. Like the community, again, being there to consult with issues. So being someone that you can turn to. So I think what's great about thinking about this question, right, is for many of us, and I'm not surprised, right, that delivery is so big here, right, particularly with our public library audience, is to think about what we really use Rails for. You know, what do we really think about when we think about them? So we know we need the delivery part just to be able to do what we're doing. But what else do we really turn to Rails for? We can see here again, facilitating communication, purchasing, discounts on software, the e-resources, leadership. So give everybody just another minute, connection with peers. I like this, better awareness of all the things. So not a small task at all. And so we're going to move on to the next question. And with this one, I'd love to know in one word, what's an opportunity you see for Rails in the future? So we've just thought about what's really important to us, right? What we know is really part of our everyday work with Rails. But as you look forward, what's something that you really see that you would love to have Rails explore, or something that you wish would be visible? So two big ones off straight off the bat. So work with equity, diversity, and inclusion, and advocacy. So grants, rural connection, more work with our online resources, big time marketing for libraries, some support with the library districts. So the support for all the library card piece. So still more guidance, automation, the RFID grants has popped up as big. So again, I think you can see there's a lot of language here about that, you know, how do we make sure that, you know, in the area that Rails serves, people really have access to library resources. Trustee support, board training, which I know some of we do that already. So I'm going to give everybody just you know, another minute or so to think about what you'd like to put in here. You know, so when you're thinking this is something I really need, and Rails seems like it has the capacity or the vision, right, to be able to help me do this. And often when it stops moving, we're at a pretty good spot to move on. So now let's move on to the next question. And so for you, again, I'm challenging in one word. What's one big challenge for our communities that's been revealed by the pandemic? And here by community, obviously with public libraries, that means the community we serve. But for those of you who are here, that's your school community, your school population, whether you're in, K-12 or in higher ed. What is it, or if you're in a special library, that audience that you're serving, what's something that's really come to mind? What's really become so, visible to you as a challenge, over the past 18 months? So broadband access, I've struggled with that this week myself on my trip out here in rural Oregon. The digital divide. Having to really rethink, really, right? Patron engagement. How do we provide services? Understanding what our services are. Seeing equity, right? Really come to the forefront. Misinformation and information literacy. So I think it's become so clear for us as we've moved into an environment where we really need to be even more connected digitally than I think we ever thought we would need to, right? It's been really so front of mind. Health information, the social safety net and the gaps in them. Really what to do right about programs, our library programs, that people really have different habits and fewer visits. Our finances or our community, the finances of those we serve. So I think this is really helpful, again, to think about as we think about a strategic plan and the elements of the plan really needing to be, really looking forward, right? These challenges, these gaps are a great opportunity for us to explore. It doesn't mean that Rails can be the answer to these necessarily, but that there's something in here that we should really engage with as an opportunity. And then I want you to, again, thinking about the pandemic, I want you to think about what's a strength that the pandemic really revealed about Rails. So in these past 18 months, what's something that you've been really wonderfully surprised by, something you've been thankful for, something about Rails that was just really important. And here you can add, you could do a little bit longer. So I've let you put in a little bit of a sentence. You don't have to put a hyphen between them, but connection, leadership, research support, unity, guidance, the updates. So again, that connection. So we can see some of that language, connection and unity, our updates, that networking piece, that ability to bring us together has been really important. Resilience, so that they've shown it and hopefully you've been able to feel it. Just the information, the guidance with COVID, again, that research support, the e-resources, of course, right, as we've had to become more digital, our virtual networking, that guidance, again, really important for us. So resilience and leadership. So I can see here, if we had done a word cloud, I think we'd be looking at guidance as having one of the big, would be one of the big ones. And that I think gives us a really important sense, right? In these moments where we have really had to be, and realm information, so it's specific things about COVID, guidance, that sharing, so I think what I can see here is really that strong role that Rails plays, again, that came up in some of those past things as being an organization you can turn to, right? You can get guidance from. They've been consistently communicating, helping you with what is front of mind. That the leadership has been really strong, that connection and that communication, keeping up with science, and really being a spot that can really enable us to have a virtual connection. Timely training. So being the authority. I think for many of us, I can imagine, I know here in Oregon, our state library played such an essential role in really helping us really have authoritative information about COVID for our communities and our opening and our access. So that communication, connection, support, updates, leadership guidance and support. So I think it's wonderful to see the specifics. So for some of us, that there are these really specific things that Rails really filled in a gap for us in these past 18 months. And I will continue to, I think, but that we also, this is a great one. Look, we're all in this together. That Rails, with the reach that it has, the ability to really bring together member libraries, can really be in that role to be in leadership, right? Provide the connection, be there to provide the support and the guidance. And that camaraderie. So I'm going to let this go just another minute or so as we watch what comes in. And then I have one more poll question for you. And so I hope for our Rails staff here, you can really see the benefit of all of your hard work over this pandemic time. So that leadership, that guidance, that networking, that really specific information that you helped with, really showed. So your member libraries really felt it. So I think sometimes we think it feels like it's a strange time, right, to be doing strategic planning. We're going to be doing this processes, they're all virtual. And it can feel like a strange time. But one of the things that I love about doing strategic planning over the past 18 months is it's really made clear what's important to us, right? So we're building from a position of strength. So this time has been very difficult, right? But throughout, we've seen how we can pull together and where we're really strong. And that's a place that we should really build from. It gives us an opportunity, right, to really have focus and to think about where we've been successful. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Yeah, it's the last one. And that's, what is a hope that you have for the new plan? So whether you ever looked at the old plan or not, thinking about what we have learned today. And again, this one, because I didn't say it's in one word, you can feel free to kind of put a little sentence out. Just hearing what we've heard today, what's something that you really hope as we go through as a result of this planning process, something that you hope to see? Oh no, I did do it one word only. Thank you, adaptable. What do you hope to really see? So that it's responsive, it's inclusive, it has a user focus, I'm going to guess, more inclusion. So really looking outside kind of the suburban, right? We are looking here, so to continue doing what we're strong at. Some forward thinking, future thinking I can see. And so I think this way, like when we're thinking about that, a plan being inclusive, to really think about what that language means for us. So an equitable and inclusive plan, really thinking about that as amongst us as member libraries. We're thinking about that as something that we can roll out to our communities and to the organizations or the people that we serve. So that's something I would keep in mind as we go into those town halls is, what does that word mean for you? Equitable and inclusive, what does it mean for Rails? So we can see here kind of, not trendy, future thinking, right? We want it to be responsive. We want it to be flexible, some succession planning. We want it to be realistic. We want it to be doable. So I think when we look forward, then we'll be looking, and we'll get into this again in that first round of town halls. It's just, what does this really look like as we move forward? How can you have a plan that's both forward thinking, right? And that is, the really good version of more of the same, right? That is really continuing to build on our strengths. So again, as we look at what's next, after, again, getting our steering committee together, We're going to have the first of the 2 rounds of virtual town halls for you, for member libraries. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about the process, and then we'll really start to gather those contributions to shape the objectives. And your contributions today have already been really helpful in putting some more structure around what we'll be sharing starting next week. And then our staff will have their own round of town halls to contribute. And we'll go back to members and the board in later rounds. Again, really focusing on developing consensus on what success looks like for our goals and our objectives. So as I mentioned, you're welcome to come participate in a town hall. There'll be more opportunity to talk. So we'll be using breakout groups, so come prepared. And we have 4 in each round. So again, I would really encourage you to try to come to both rounds. You can sign up and see all of the dates for both rounds there. But let's really focus on getting one of these round 1 town halls onto our calendars. So the first one is on Monday. The second one is on Tuesday. So quick turnaround, and then a little break after ILA. And then we'll come back with another one on the 18th and another one on the 20th. So we've tried to do a mix of afternoons and morning times. So we hope that you can find one to participate in. I know we'll plan on recording at least one of them so that if you can't come, you can listen. And there'll be ways for you, again, to contribute individually, even if you weren't able to come. So I'm just going to check here. Kate, thank you. And Carol, thank you. So I'll just say thank you. And I'll say I'm looking forward to seeing you all in a town hall, hopefully over the next few weeks.
Thank you all, and thank you so much for your wonderful contributions. It was so interesting and thoughtful. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And again, just want to reiterate what Stephanie said. Really, really want to encourage you to attend those town halls. It's really another opportunity to hear from you and to hear more from you. So if you can attend, if you can encourage your colleagues to attend, we would love, love, love to have you. So that's all we have, unless anyone has any additional questions about the strategic planning process.
I would like to make a specific plea that if each of you could ask a non-public librarian in your network or somebody you know to come to one of the town halls, that would be great. We love you, public librarians, you know that. But you could see from the attendance at this one that we really and we serve all types of libraries, and we all need all types of libraries ourselves. So if each of you could ask one person, that would be so awesome. So, and I reiterate, thank you for all your contribution. I think that, again, Stephanie, I think this is such a great, model for doing this. I love the polling. It's so friendly, but so very, it really makes an impact when you see those big words. Yes, so does anybody have any questions about the process or anything? Thanks, Carol. Okay, well, you'll be hearing lots more about it, and I guess we'll move on. And thanks again, Stephanie. You can stick around or not, whatever your preference is. Okay, so we are now going to turn to Nancy George, and I'm not sure that all of you know Nancy. Nancy is our cataloging services coordinator, and she's been doing amazing work coordinating cataloging services and training, and she's currently just at the beginning of a really important special project or new project. We are planning on continuing it because we know how important it is, and that's cataloging world languages, and these are languages that are not done by the Catalog Maintenance Center. So it's a real expansion. And we know how difficult it is for libraries of any type to find catalogers, to be able to catalog materials that are not in English. So we're really, really glad to be able to offer this to all of our members. So Nancy, thank you, and tell us all about it.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dee, for the great introduction. I'm excited to share about the new cataloging service program from Rails. While we are in the process to establish a specialized statewide cataloging support program to Illinois library system members. So today I'm going to give you an overview of this new service. How does it work? Who can participate? What languages or formats this service will cover? How does it work? And the timeline of this service. So this service program provides supplementary cataloging, particularly when original cataloging or word language cataloging is needed for the members as an outsourcing option for free. This would be an ongoing cataloging support from us. This service will greatly support and expand resource sharing by providing access to a variety of unique materials that have not previously been widely available for resource sharing because there has been no one to catalog them. So this also addresses many of the goals and objectives of the current Rails strategic plan. There will be no charge to member libraries to use this service. This service is made possible by the cataloging grant from Illinois State Library. So who can participate in this service? Both Rails and Illinois Heartland members are eligible to participate. As I mentioned earlier, it's a statewide cataloging support program. What languages and formats the service will cover? So all Asian languages and non-Latin, including Slavic and Cyrillic languages, African and indigenous American or Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island languages are also eligible. This service does not cover modern European languages, French, German, Spanish, and Italian cataloging. It will not cover cataloging genealogy, local history, and special collection like local authors, community, cookbooks, government documents. Libraries can utilize cataloging services from the Cataloging Maintenance Center for those type of materials. The eligible formats are print books, audiobooks, kits, magazines, periodicals, serials, sound recordings, music and non-music, printed music, cartographic materials, realia, textbooks, video games, video recordings such as VHS, DVDs, and Blu-rays, and non-published materials such as manuscripts. If you are in any doubt, you can always reach out to me to if it's the right, if it's a eligible format. We will provide you detailed instructions on how you can send and receive materials when you request this service. But I can give you an outline on how we are planning to do this work. Libraries can send us physical items, photocopies, or PDF files of the items to be cataloged. We understand that some materials may not be able to leave your library, so we can catalog from surrogates, that means photocopies, scans, or images, rather than shipping the original materials. If you are sending surrogates, you should follow the guidelines when preparing the materials. We will provide you the specific guidelines on how to send surrogates. So when a member library send materials to Rails, first they have to use an online cataloging support form on our website to submit each specialized cataloging service request. This online form indicate your cataloging specifications. Once you submit this form, you will receive an email. You have to enclose a printout of that email with the item need to be cataloged. You can also, then you can send that material to Burridge through Rails delivery. You have to be logged into Rails website to submit this form. When we receive this material, I will make sure that the enclosed printout match the materials you send it to us. And then I will start cataloging. Before pursuing original cataloging, I will first search OCLC connection for copy cataloging. If I found a record, I will enhance the record, and I can make it into a full level bibliographic record. If there is no existing MARC record found, I will create an original bibliographic record and will supply the full level bibliographic record. If I am not an expert in language or format, we will outsource the cataloging. Our outsourcing vendor is Backstage Library Works. Libraries can request LC or Dewey number, depend on their classification scheme or other cataloging elements. We will provide Library of Congress, MESH, BISAC, and Sears subject headings, depending upon your institution's use. We will not do any physical processing of the items like printing and affixing labels. We will not load the bibliography record for the item into your local ILS database. We will not create items or holding records for your individual copies. We will provide you full level bibliographic record for each items you send it to us. So about the timeline of this service, our plan is to start this program with a pilot project involving 5 libraries representing multiple different types of libraries. I am awaiting one more small part of this project. So currently we are targeting to reach out to the participating libraries for the pilot early next week. We will conduct a careful analysis of the pilot project to determine if any of our procedures or process need to be revised. After making any necessary changes, we will implement and publicize this cataloging support program statewide. So our plan is to launch and publicize this program in November and December. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have, or you can reach out to me individually anytime.
There's a question in the chat, Nancy, about the languages that will be available. If you could just say those again.
Okay. The languages are all Asian languages and non-Latin, including Slavic and Cyrillic languages, African and Indigenous American, Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island languages are also available. But it does not cover modern European languages and cataloging genealogy, local history, and special collections, because you could use that service from cataloging maintenance for those type of materials. Right. I hope it's clear.
Right. So we're not duplicating, obviously, what they're doing. We're expanding the access. So you're getting a lot of kudos on the chat, Nancy. So that's great. So just to reiterate, are you looking for libraries to be part of your pilot, or?
Yes, we already have the pilot list.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 different multiple type of libraries in my list.
Okay, great. And Kate Hall's asking if there's a limit on how many items you could submit. I guess probably at any one time.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah, there is a limit of 3 to 5 items per library per month, because we are serving a huge amount of libraries. So
right.
yeah. So if it's not working, if it's working properly, then we can expand the service.
Exactly. Yes. Right. Okay. So stay tuned for more information on this. And as Nancy has said, and as you know, of course, we will, see how it's going, and if it needs to be tweaked, we'll do that. So really glad to be able to offer this. Okay, I guess we'll move on then. And let's see, Kate Hall is going to talk to us about Libraries Present, a joint virtual programming initiative. Hi, Kate.
Hey, Dee, thanks. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. Oh, but before I do that, I'm going to put, oh, drat, I copied something else, guys. I'm going to share the slides right after this. I had copied the link for the Google Slides, and I'll send it to Mary Witt as well, so we can put it in the notes. And so, one second, and hopefully everyone should be able to see the slides. Monica's nodding, which is fabulous. So I just want to thank Dee and everyone else at Rails for giving me the chance to tell all of you about this. Some of you may already be aware, but we're trying to get the word out to as many people as possible. So I'm here today to talk to you about Illinois Libraries Present, which is a statewide joint library programming initiative. I wanted to mention all of my fabulous steering committee members that I've been working with that are representative. Some of them are here today, some of them are not, but they have also done a tremendous amount of work. So even though I'm the one talking, please know that this has very much been a huge group effort. So what is exactly ILP? Well, I realize I forgot to change this slide again. The goal is to provide high quality online events at equitable prices for participating member libraries of all sizes and budgets. Our goal is to connect communities and audiences across the state through shared event experiences. And when we started talking about this as a group about 6 months ago, we did set some goals for ourselves. We wanted to provide high quality, high profile events. We did some surveying. Social justice and DEI issues definitely ranked high, along with fiction author events. And we know that this is often cost prohibitive for individual libraries to do. We wanted to reduce costs and maximize the reach. We know that with everything we've gone through during the pandemic, there's a huge opportunity to reach people in ways that we haven't before, and we wanted to harness the buying power of all of our Illinois public libraries and try and offer more to our patrons. We also feel that if we're going to be doing programs on social justice and DEI, that it's incredibly important to allow access for libraries as equitably as possible, recognizing that libraries have many different budgets and service populations, and so to make it affordable for everyone. And then behind the scenes, we really wanted to define clear and distinct roles so that we know exactly who's doing what, and to give people throughout Illinois libraries the chance to learn about how a steering committee works, how marketing might work for large programs like this, for how event production. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the committees if you're interested in getting involved at the end of the presentation. So we set some pretty high goals for ourselves, and have, for those of you that are already aware of this, know that we've gone through several iterations and have been testing out what might work and what didn't. And now we are ready to tell you what we're planning for the pilot program. And so the pilot program is going to be from January to June of 2022. We will be charging people who want to join a flat fee based on your operating budget. We're using the Illinois Public Library annual report data in order to determine what the pricing model is. We plan to offer at least one program a month, 2 if we can afford it. And each library will pay a flat fee and will get to choose how many of the programs they want to participate in. So you don't have to do all of them, but you certainly can. In order to do this, your library will need to approve an intergovernmental agreement. And during the pilot program, we recognize that this is a new thing. And so we're going to be doing a lot of evaluation and asking for feedback in order to improve and adjust how we are approaching this during the pilot to hopefully launch it for forever, hopefully, and recognizing that that analysis piece is going to be critically important. So you're probably wondering at this point, like, well, okay, great, that's all lovely, how aspirational, but like, seriously, what is the cost going to be? Well, the cost is very reasonable. We have 600 plus public libraries in the state, and right now we are unfortunately limiting it to public. We're hoping to expand it, but because of the IGA and because of how we set up the pricing, we haven't figured out adding in the others, but we do plan to look at that during the pilot and beyond. And so as you can see, the majority of libraries in the state have budgets under $250,000. Their cost for the entire program is $40. So that will cover every single program we offer. And then the highest cost, which is for someone like me at Northbrook Public Library, the cost will be $1,150. And that, again, is going to cover everything. And so in addition to access to all of the programming, we are also going to be hiring a freelance marketing graphic designer to do professionally designed marketing materials that we will make available to everyone that is participating. We will be handling all of the online sign up for patrons. All you'll need to do is share the link with your patrons and put it in your event calendar if you have one. We'll be providing the on-site tech support for your patrons during the program and handling any of those issues that may arise. Well, probably will arise because, you know, Zoom. And then we'll also be providing each individual library that participates with attendance for their library, as well as analysis of the program and how it went. In addition, we know that libraries are spending a lot of money on Zoom licenses that we're using for one program for 1 month, and we wanted to encourage additional resource sharing opportunities. And so we are making a Zoom license available for if your library wants to do their own joint event. So this isn't for just like regular Zoom, like, oh, I need to have a meeting. But if you are partnering with other libraries and want to, you know, get a Zoom license pretty cheap for either 1,000 or 5,000 people, you'll be able to pay $25, which will be charged at the end of the pilot in order to do that. We know that we can't be in charge of every single joint programming opportunity that presents itself. So this is a way that we're hoping other libraries can take advantage of that. So in order to join, you need to fill out a membership interest form as soon as possible. Only one per library is necessary. Your library boards will need to approve the intergovernmental agreement by the end of December, and then wait to be billed. We'll be doing billing in January, and again, we'll be billing for the entire 6 months, 6-month pilot period. This is like you either have to get it in by December 31st or you have to wait until the pilot is over. We're not going to be doing any mid-pilot, you know, add-ons. So we will have our first quarter of programming ready to be announced at the end of October. So right around the same time, the 5 to 11-year-olds will hopefully be able to be vaccinated. So it will be a very exciting Halloween time. You'll have programming and vaccination stuff. And then we will have our April, May, and June programming ready to be announced by the end of November. So if you're like, I don't know about this, it sounds like great, but maybe not. I think you should join. Obviously I do, because I've been working on this, but let me tell you, there are some specific reasons why you should really do it. This is going to give you really cheap access to some really fantastic events for your patrons. We're basing this off of some of the programs that many of our libraries have already done, like bringing in Dr. Ibram Kendi, having John Grisham, doing virtual screenings for the documentary The Long Shadow, and then having a Q&A with Director Francis Causey. These are the types of events that we're going to be bringing to this group. You also will have the opportunity to share ideas for programs that you would like to see. This isn't us just deciding. We're going to be asking everyone that is a member, what would they like to see? It also allows us to, you know, shine a light on events that we might not otherwise have the bandwidth within our own communities to do. Bringing in big name, nationally recognized speakers, and also bringing your patrons a professionally presented program that showcases the power and value of libraries, which is always important. Within your library, it is hopefully going to be pretty easy for you. You can plan ahead. We plan to have things available 5 to 6 months in advance for the pilot. We're not able to do that entirely. It also means that everyone will have access to do this. It isn't just if someone was asked. It means that every library and every public library in Illinois has the potential to join. It also is going to give you an opportunity to learn about how to do large, high quality event productions, to be able to not have your marketing person, or if you don't have a marketing person, have your staff have to figure out how to do all of this. We're going to do all of that for you. And for your staff, joining one of the committees is going to give them the opportunity to learn about how to do these types of programs, and also gain valuable leadership skills and enhance their networking possibilities. And then also working together, which is what Illinois libraries do best, which is going to be really, really wonderful. And so as I mentioned, we do have some committees. We are, we're all volunteering. We're not getting paid for this. We hope that you will, of course, join us, and you don't have to join a committee. But for those that are interested, we really need your help to make sure that this is a success. We still have openings on our steering committee, our programming committee, which will be deciding what programs to offer and when, our marketing committee, which we're just getting launched, our events production committee, which will be in charge of actually running the events, and our data analysis committee, which we're also launching. It's really important for us, again, looking at this through an EDI lens, that each committee has representation from libraries throughout the state. So we want Rails and Heartland. We also want to represent multiple budget tiers. My library is really large. We have a lot of money. That is really lovely, but that doesn't mean that we're the be all and end all. We have a lot of amazing libraries in the state, and we want everyone, from all of the different budget sizes to be able to participate and help us with this. We also want people that are from different levels of the organization. I'm a director. There's a lot of directors on the call, as we saw from the survey that Stephanie did during the strategic planning. But we have amazing staff, and let's give them some opportunities to lead and learn and grow. So we want staff from all levels of the organization, and hope that you will encourage your staff, if you are a director, to participate in this. We also want people that represent different work experiences, different personal identities. We don't want to just bring the same people to the table to talk about the same things. We want to hear from people and challenge ourselves to do more and think differently. So with all of that being said, we hope that you will join. And if you want to, there's a bunch of links, which I will have here, and I will share those slides with everyone. You can get all of the information that I presented here today on our website. As you can see, we're still very bare bones. We don't have like an official Illinois Libraries Present website yet, but we will eventually. So for now, we have a lovely Google site, and you can also join our Rails listserv, where we're sending updates. We're also sending up stuff to the other listservs, but joining the Rails listserv will be the best way to make sure you get all of the up-to-date information. And then we also have the membership interest form, as well as the committee application. And we do have an email if you have further questions after today. So I realize I did not have the chat open. And so, yeah, okay.
I think Jennifer's been answering a lot of it, I think, Kate.
Oh, thank goodness. Yay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks,
a lot
Jennifer.
of comments about how great it is. I don't think there's any outstanding questions. Let me see. Is that a listserv?
Just for this opportunity, Barbara? Yeah. So yes, we set it up for joint library programming, but people have been sharing other joint programming opportunities on the listserv, and that's totally fine with us. But yes, our intent is for us to funnel things through the listserv that we have set up, but we're not going to be stingy and say, no, you can only look at this. You can only talk about our stuff, because we want people to share. Any other questions that I can answer right now?
Well, it's a great idea. It's more than an idea. It's a great project, and I think it really. Valerie wants to know where we get the forms again, and I think it shows what we learned from what we learned from the pandemic, right? This is virtual programming is the
And resource sharing is something that we always think about in terms of our materials. But we also have done resource sharing in terms of ideas and sharing our own learning. And this is just another way that Illinois can really be a leader in resource sharing as we have been. So,
Yep,
so yes, I just put a link
absolutely.
to the slides in the doc after I didn't copy properly. And Jennifer Chaika is one of our steering committee members and just put the form in as well. The form, if you're not sure at this point, or if you want to wait for the program announcement of who we're going to be bringing in, you can wait. We don't need to have the form today. You can also say on the form that you're waiting for more information, but you are potentially interested, just to make sure that we keep you up to date with what is going on. So great. Well, thank you. And thank you again to Dee and Monica and everyone at Rails for letting me hijack part of the Rails member update to present this to all of you. And I hope that many of you consider joining either in its entirety or also hopefully as committee members. And we'll look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, Kate. A great idea. Perfect topic for a member update, right? It's all about sharing ideas and knowledge, etc., as you said. Speaking of which, well, first of all, any more questions for Kate at this point? I think they've supplied you with a lot of information, and you know how to get in touch with them as well. Okay. Speaking of sharing information, though, this is the time for you guys to share your news or ask other questions or bring up any topics you want to discuss. But one thing that we would really be interested in is whether any of you are considering vaccine mandates or that kind, policies related to vaccines and staff in particular. So you can put it in the chat. Very interested in knowing. Okay. Okay, so Northbrook is going to look at a mandatory vaccine. Let's see, Ryan from Warren Newport says they're going to be asking staff to get the vaccine or get a COVID test weekly. Dunlap Public Library just voted down a mandatory vaccine policy. Not at this time, not at this time. Has been officially approved in Warren Newport and starts next week. Waiting for more federal guidance. Kristen Dement is planning. I don't hope I'm not reading something that you can all see, but so it doesn't look like a big number at this point, but it's definitely it's out there. Actually later today, Monica and I are meeting with Leslie Bednar at Heartland. Talk to them about what they're looking at doing. We'll let everybody know, obviously, if Rails or Heartland decides to move forward with this. Any other pandemic-related news anybody wants to share, or any other non-pandemic related news that anybody wants to share? Science Saturday program, that sounds great, Jennifer. That's Milledgeville, right? Let's see, Barbara Love, no, we haven't heard anything. Let's see, DeKalb just got an IGA with the township to provide library cards to all non-residents not otherwise covered by agreements with school and cards for kids. That's awesome. Moline is included in the library program for adults and disabilities in the ALA book. Nice, congratulations, Moline. I have not heard any word on the per capita grant application or process or timeline. Have you, Monica or Joe?
Nothing recently. I'll look and see if there's anything else brand new, but nothing to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. And yes, Kevin is retiring. Kevin Davis. There's going to be an open house on December 12th. Congratulations, Pam, on the Morton Grove renovation. That's awesome. And Alyssa, thank you, who is also on our steering committee. The State Library website lists for strategic planning, lists the per capita grant as being due on January 15th. Well, thanks to everyone for your participation today, and we hope to see you at the town halls. Remember, you're going to ask at least one non-public library person. And you're welcome, Karen Nelson, for everything we do at Rails. We do it for you guys. We love our jobs. We love you, all of our members. So we'll see you at those town halls. Bye.